Hello, I'm Caleb Cooper, and I'm going to discuss the global connections of KFC from Kentucky to China and why KFC was so successful in China. But to start with, what is KFC? KFC is short for Kentucky Fried Chicken. They changed the name in the early 90s when the big health craze came, and they turned it into an acronym to hide the word fried. It was founded by Colonel Herman Sanders in Corbin, Kentucky, which is a town just 25 miles off of the Tennessee border. Colonel Sanders bought the place, and it was just a service station, motel, cafe combo. Been there, it's a pretty cool place. The legacy of KFC is it's known obviously for its chicken and their special secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices, which is not that secret. You can actually find it on Google. It still lives on all around the world, just in every town pretty much. It stretches worldwide over 13,000 restaurants in more than 80 countries and territories. It is a $13 billion brand outside of Louisville, Kentucky. It's the largest brand of the Young portfolio, which has KFC, Pizza Hut, A&W, Pepsi, Long John Silver's, and Taco Bell. You can see by the map, everything red, that is where a KFC is at. But I'm going to be focusing in this region named China. But to start with, why did KFC go into China? Well, in China in 1997, the population in China was 1,093,000. And the growth rate was 13,610 per year, with a percent of 25.3 in urban areas and 74.7% in regional areas. China at the time was in the midst of the sweeping economic reform within the country. Many doubted that an American enterprise like KFC could profit in the market. But Deng Xiaoping began the era of reform and opening during this time. And a sit-down restaurant was the epitome of luxury at the time. And you could say that reform made them hungry for Western influence. The beginning of KFC in China. They first set foot in China in 1987. The first Chinese KFC opened in the Tiananmen Square. And if you're not familiar with what that is, that's a big square in front of the Communist government building in Beijing. It was the first Western-style fast food restaurant, and it was unknown to China. At the time, Chinese were still wearing tunic suits from the Mao era, and bicycle was the main transportation. When it first started, it was just a place of special events. They weren't really crazy about the food, but it has steady progress. But how they became the business that they are is they improved themselves. They abandoned the domestic logic that what works in the United States will work in China, which many companies before tried to do this, but failed because of that main point. They try to find the balance in adjusting, throwing, and keeping. In 1992, the Chinese government granted more foreign companies greater access. And Sam Su, a man that I will discuss deeper in later, created 5 radical events and competitive advantages. The 5 competitive advantages are infusing a Western brand with Chinese characteristics, expanding rapidly, developing logistic network, training employees in service, and focusing on ownership rather than franchising. the first point. Fusing Western brand with Chinese characteristics. They first stretched out the brand to be part of the community, not a fast food restaurant, Western restaurant. They offered variety of food in traditional dishes to appeal to the market. A comparison is KFC in China has 50 items compared to 29 items in the United States. Offering spicy chicken, rice dishes, soy milk drinks, egg tarts, fried dough, wraps with local sauces, fish and shrimp burgers on fresh buns. And the spicy level was very important in China because in Beijing, the sauce that we craved from was too spicy for them. But in Shanghai, the sauce was too bland for them. So they need to know which regions like it hot and some who like it not. And they also have breakfast with rice porridge, which that's what it looks like. Alright, other changes that they did was KFC in China is twice the size in kitchen and floor space than in the United States. They set it up for dining, not for takeout. There were 60 employees, twice the size in the United States. To fit the kitchen to fix more complex meals and have a hostess to greet and play with children. There was a higher cost than the neighboring vendors, but it's a place of pleasure. Expanding rapidly, KFC decided to embrace smaller cities and build a national business with outlets. The scale allowed reduced prices, and being first in a city gives them better pickings on what location they can go. And in the small villages, having a Western influenced restaurant like KFC going into your city, that's free publicity. They first rushed to establish only 16 locations. By 1999, they created a dozen per year. By 2002, growing faster. In 2008, having 500 restaurants. Now, 700 cities have outlets now. The largest restaurant company in China is KFC, with 250,000 employees and 40% of the market in fast food. There was no logistics network in China when KFC first went into China. So KFC China established a distribution branch in 1997, building warehouses, running their own fleets, and yes, it was an expensive undertaking, but it was necessary. They expand rapidly, carrying lengthy and complex menus with new products. They had to form one. They had to form logistics to carry that. KFC China closely monitors the entire chain, all the way back to what the animal eats. Continue on developing logistics. There are 11 full-service logistics centers, 6 satellite centers, and serving every province except Tibet. Winter months, renting temporary warehouses and reserving space in cargo lines because the winter in China is so bad that some trucks can't get through. Buying locally is essential and strengthens the relationship with the Chinese government, which is very important. But yes, there are some things that they can't avoid, like the certain herbs and spices for the secret recipes. So, and their fourth is training employees in service. KFC was one of the first companies to promote excellent customer service, which is unfamiliar because of decades of communism. Despite the abundance of people who want to work, staffing was a periodical obstacle, which every year they have to hire more people. Sam Su, the CEO of KFC China, once quoted, "To maintain a certain opening rate, KFC needs 1,000 managers and 30,000 crew members a year. New crews at KFC often need to learn basic people skills and teamwork because due to the one-child policy and such adapting to home computers, a lot of them have social problems. The last one is focusing on ownership rather than franchising. KFC China challenged the domestic logic of franchising is the best. 90% of Yum outlets in China are company owned, compared to 12% in the United States and 11% international. The Chinese model was more complex, so owning a restaurant allowed the company to keep an eye closer to the menu and decor and just monitor them better. Permits central purchasing, which reduces costs and gives the company the larger share of profits. Evolving after backlash. In 2002, the Chinese National Nutrition Health Survey revealed 22% of overweight adults and compared to 6% in 1982. Children of 7 to 17 tripled in 10 years with 8.1%. 2005, a company, Samsung, decided for the company to create a new fast food with nutrition and balanced menus promoting healthy living by cutting the super size and adding roasted chicken, sandwiches, fish, shrimp, and more fruits and vegetables to the option. But yes, fries and soda can still be substituted on request. To you all that are probably thinking it's just Colonel Sanders having a big old party in China being the only Western restaurant, that is false. There's other companies, like McDonald's for instance. KFC is beating McDonald's in every angle. When McDonald's opened in the 4 largest cities in China, instead of going head to head, KFC started their rapid campaign and went smaller. McDonald's achieved only 1/3 as many outlets and 60% of the market share. Like I previously said, KFC China adapted a lot into China to fit the lifestyle. Both McDonald's and KFC started delivery early in arrival in China because China is so densely populated and it costs so much to build a drive-through, and it's so redundant, with the idea that in China they believe it's redundant and tedious to go to a restaurant, pick up food, then go back home and eat it, which KFC is famous for here. As in, there, they rather go there and eat or have them come to them, which they come to them by motor or pedal bikes. And half of KFC restaurants deliver. On average, 15 minutes of delivery service with a delivering fee of $1. In China, they don't believe in tipping, so there you go. And it's not just Ronald McDonald and Colonel Sanders duking it out in China. There's other chain landscape in China, like in Burger King, which only has 3 dozen restaurants in China, with their first outlet opening in 2005. In 2006, the executive said that NHS could be their main engine of growth, but they're going to take it slow. Dairy Queen has 300 Chinese outlets. McDonald's opened their first restaurant in 1990 and plans to double their outlets by 2013. I'm not sure if they accomplished that, but there you go. Papa John's, a company which I must add, failed in Australia because they failed to adapt. Increased numbers of their outlets in China from 555 to 300 within 3 years. Pizza Hut, which is another Yum portfolio with 500 dine-in restaurants and 112 delivery-only outlets. Like KFC, they undergo transformation to fit China with seafood, beef steak, and fried squid on their pizza. Starbucks also opened in China in 1999 and has 450 shops and aims to have 1,500 by the end of 2015. Taco Bell, the only Yum portfolio restaurant to shut down China. The Chinese just didn't like Mexican food. So, KFC is a perfect example of a confident, dynamic company. They're very impressive. In 2011, the Yum Chinese locations that have been only open for like a year or more rose 16% compared to the decline in 2% in U.S. locations, which means KFC in China is being more successful than KFC in the United States. The margins in 6 months was 22%, well above the U.S. margin of 11%. You may have heard me speak a lot about Sam Su. Well, this is Sam Su. He is the CEO of KFC China. He was born in Taiwan. He has a chemical engineering degree at the National Taiwan University and has a Master in Science in Chemical Engineering from Penn State and has an MBA degree from University of Pennsylvania. His alma mater of University of Pennsylvania once quoted him, stated in his early career that he joined KFC in May 1989 as the regional marketing director for the North Pacific KFC branch and was also a general manager when China only had 4 KFCs. In the 1990s, he switched his focus to maintain China's business. More about him. Besides being lucky, smart, driven, and a visionary of a classical enterprise, he's also humble. Once quoted saying that there's no time to be an individualist in China. And he is very flexible in the model of China, in the KFC China model, if you haven't noticed. Partly due because when KFC first went into China, KFC was owned by Pepsi. And Pepsi said pretty much do whatever you want. Su's strategy was to make KFC not seen as a foreign company, but a part of the community, using the best ideas of the U.S. model, but also adapt to serve the needs of China. His first act was hiring Chinese managers who could read and speak English, but also experienced the Western way of business. So my question, so you're all probably wondering, is KFC still KFC? Well, I return with another question. Is it Chinese restaurants in America Chinese restaurants? You will never see a fortune cookie or an egg roll ever in your life if you go to Chinese restaurants in China, because that is an Americanized thing. Chinese restaurants did that to adapt to American palate, as in KFC did in China. Yes, there are some things alike. Like we both have chicken sandwiches, but different in the United States. We both have corn. Ours is on the cob, theirs is on a dish, and we both serve with great customer service. The difference is they have French fries in China, as in we have potato wedges. They have no popcorn chicken, nor the leg and thigh meals that we are known to have with buckets. They have 1 or 2 thighs on a plate with rice. And they also have rice porridge and a bigger dining kitchen. So you're probably wondering, what's so great about KFC doing so great in China? Well, it proves that the Chinese diets are changing as incomes increase. What happens in China, what they eat, affects us. KFC being so successful in China is a sparking economic testament to the influx of capitalism and the aftermaths of the Mao Revolution that doomed them into communism. It is a symbol of Western thought and seen as a luxury. It is a testimony that cultures can collide and lines will be blurred over the dinner plate. And the relating and lessons from KFC is, over time, KFC China has come to reflect China itself. With both are large, growing, confident, eager for variety and new experiences. They're both, China and KFC, are dynamic and capable of expanding still further. The overall lesson is, quoted by Sam Su, if a company wants to go to a multinational company for a long term, it should install local managers whose vision is to build on an organization that lasts. So my theme of geography I chose was place, because KFC adapted to the characteristics of the place of China. KFC adapted to cater to the likes of the Chinese, and along with region to fit the way of their life. So now, when KFC is growing, China is growing as well. The population of China is estimated to be 1,393,783,883 in July 1st, 2014. So you can just see how big they increased. Chinese population is 19.24% of the world's population. It's ranked number 1 in the most populated place. Population density is 145 people per kilometer. Must I add that kilometer is less than a mile. 45% of the population is in urban China, which is different than when KFC first entered. The average age is 35.7 years old. My summary, my dear friends, is KFC was successful because they adapted to the Chinese liking, but kept the service of the Western feel of KFC. Was the first to come into China, thus making them have a foothold and expand fast. The adapting of which connects the theme to place, even through scandals like the obesity scandal, and in early and later years, one distributor gave them tainted meat, and that blew all over the press. They fired that distributor, and now they're back to normal. But even then, through the scandals, they remain by a large margin the symbol of Western culture, and is loved throughout China, from the biggest cities to the smallest villages, and is still a testimony to what works here doesn't always work there. These are my references, and I hope you enjoyed my lecture.